you can short circuit it, but there is going to be a learning phase just because there are so many moving parts. And if I have to double click on one aspect of what you said, Jacob, you spoke briefly about long funnels, and this is something a lot of people talk about. Oh, my funnel's longer than yours, and how do you suggest people think about funnel lengths, if anything?
The length does not matter.
Okay.
Bigger is not always better. And so I think often to start smaller, because you have more variables if it's longer, and a shorter number of screens allows you to actually understand what's working. When you look at competitors in the market that have super long funnels, they didn't get there on day one. They started with something more manageable and controllable and iterated and tested into those longer funnels. And so when you see this 50-page, 100-page screen, it's not like they launched with that. You're seeing years and years of work and iterations. And so start with something smaller that you can manage 10, 15 screens or something. But really it's like, it doesn't matter, just whatever can get kind of the sale. And so oftentimes you A/B test, and it's easier with A/B tests to add something than take something away. And so usually they add other conversion tactics, other kind of communication, other questions, other kind of selling and motivation. And this is kind of what I would suggest as well. Increment iteratively to get to a longer quiz funnel.
Right. So it's an incremental long-term process. Just starting with a long funnel overnight, probably not the best thing. And Elise, you've certainly seen a lot of funnels. What's your perspective on long funnels, just in the light of everything Patrick said as well?
Yeah, I think it's very vertical specific. There are some verticals where it makes sense to have a lot of questions because the result of your funnel is going to be a custom plan that is, like answering a lot of specific questions. And there's some funnels where you want to bring the user as close to your app as soon as possible. So you want to just have like a few screens and then get to the solution. I think I was surprised when I got into it myself that, for some products, long funnels work really well. And there's actually not that much drop off question to question, because when someone is 15 question deep, why not answering the 15 next ones? Why would they quit there? They want to know. And there's a lot of UI and UX mechanics you can add to your funnel design to make them, like aware of that progression, and they want to keep going just to finish the bar. So I think, yeah, it really depends on the vertical you're in, and I don't think bigger is better necessarily. It really depends.
Yeah, and if I might follow up, what verticals do you see longer funnels better for? What verticals do you see shorter ones better for?
I think longer one, I would say any like weight loss and health and fitness that is like quite personal, and where you need a solution that's not only, I think, physical but also like emotional a bit. So you want to build in this really precise profile, and maybe a shorter funnel, any apps for children where it's parents that do the funnel, but the app is for children. Parents don't really want to answer a bazillion questions about their kids. They just want to get to the app, and they just want to get the product. So this is when the personalization is not for them. So it doesn't really make sense to add a lot of questions.
Interesting. And Patrick, if I might lob the ball at you, your apps are what I would describe as entertainment, AI, utility. What's your perspective on funnel length?
Yeah, but obviously these sort of funnels you use vary a lot depending on the different apps. Getting that sense of, like, we've just launched our first agent for consumers, which is a very easy to use, very safe version of OpenClaw. And we launched it 10 days ago. So we've just started iterating on the funnels for that. But it's really fun to do because a personal assistant, by sort of definition, is supposed to get to know you very well. And so you've got a lot of cool things to work with on on that side. And then, there are other apps that we have, especially ones more on the entertainment side, where, basically the least friction we have to the sort of aha moment, and the quicker we get people into the app, the better they usually perform. That's, yeah.
Yeah. So the more casual entertainment apps, you want to have shorter funnels because people are just coming to have fun, versus the open class side of things that has a reason to ask you. Interesting. Yeah. And I think the meta point I'm taking away from all of your inputs, I think, is to really understand what we're trying to accomplish with the funnel, what the user is trying to accomplish, and maybe put on your jobs to be done hat to understand this. Yeah. And Andrey, you certainly see a lot of different funnels. You probably have a lot of different data points. What do you typically notice in terms of what corresponds to funnel length? And is that something that people should even worry about?
Yeah, so basically I agree with Elise's point about it's vertical related thing. And the longest funnel is I believe it's a Noom funnel. Noom is weight loss app. It's between 120, 140 screens total length of the funnel. Yeah, it just depends on how many questions and how many screens you need to convince users to try out your product. If you just show the user the screens that okay, we will help you to lose your weight, and in 3 screens, it's not enough, because it's more psychological thing that involves emotions and context and of the lifestyle of the user and etc. So you need to gather all this information from user to get it personalized. We also see some short funnels with the 3-5 screens with conversion rates more than 10%, which is good. Yeah, and it works differently for different products, but it's in general you need to come up with the right questions, the right amount of questions and right relevant questions that you need to ask users to convince them. And that's it. It's the main framework here. Just don't chase through numbers and the screens. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. Now to switch gears and talk about the most amazing platform hell that we were talking about. Mike, over to you. What, when your MMP is saying one thing, your ad network, which could be Meta and Google, they're saying one thing. You have SKAN for apps and you don't for web. They're all reporting different numbers, and we're not even talking about App Store Referrer and App Store Connect, right? So how do you suggest folks make spending decisions in cases where there's just so many different sources? What's your suggested and recommended reporting formats?
Sure. So I think the first thing is to not try and make everything match, because you're just going to give yourself a really big headache. What you're seeing on the networks is always going to be different to what you see in your MMP, and that will also be different to what you see on Google Analytics and everything. So I think that's a big part of it. I also think that when you are making decisions, it's best to decide what is your source of truth. I mean, generally, we would recommend being an MMP, that you would use your MMP to be your source of truth and optimize off the back of that, but then use the other sources and the other things that you're measuring as a way of being able to do a check. So it shouldn't be that your sources are wildly different or trending in different ways. You also shouldn't see on SKAN. There's a lot of people saying, "Oh, SKAN is dead. No one uses it anymore, etc." It's still a very good check. It's a good impartial check to make sure that what you're seeing is reasonably accurate in terms of overall values and things like that. So I would say don't discount anything, but also don't try and make them all match, and make sure that you are able to make decisions based on what you are pretty sure is your source of truth.
Yeah. Right. And you're right. I think we should start with the assumption that they're never going to agree. you're comparing source A versus source B, use the MMP because that's about as impartial as you can get. If you're comparing source A, maybe you can just look at different measurement systems just to level set. Yeah. And Andrey, what's your perspective on how you would suggest people handle platform health?
Yeah, sure. So we saw a few cases when numbers just has some like gaps, and some dashboards show that incorrect numbers, and sometimes it's just like discrepancy in user attribution. And different platforms and different source of truth helps here. So you can use the data from MMP, for example. You can in web you can just extract all the payments from the payment provider, and if you have different payment provider, like external billing solution will help you with that, but it's consolidates all payments inside, and just compare this data with your dashboards. And mostly we recommend to focus on ROAS if you like estimate your ad creatives and campaigns. So don't just be fooled with conversion rates and any like proxy metrics like CPM and etc. Because we saw that within one funnel there could be conversion difference in conversion rate like by 10, for example, and depending on ad creatives. So one ad creative can show you 3% conversion rate, another like 10% conversion rate. It's ROAS will be the same. So it's
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. And obviously platform health is important and critical because you need to measure what you're doing. And to switch gears a bit, right? So I know some of you talked about how you really need to measure down the funnel, but a lot of UA teams or growth marketing teams really have visibility only into what happens very up funnel because that's what the platforms expose. So the activation matters, but that's not what a lot of growth marketing teams see. For instance, if you're a meditation app, you want the user to start the first meditation, start the fifth meditation. The UA team doesn't really see that. So how would you suggest, and Jacob, I would love to have your perspective on this, how would you suggest teams stay accountable for activation and down funnel metrics and maybe full funnel metrics?
Yeah, so it's never a simple problem that's fully resolved. And the larger your company gets, the more team members you have, and some of it's kind of just this collaboration, communication challenge that just make sure our teams, the product monetization, acquisition teams are kind of talking. But ultimately, you need to make this connection between the activation moment and revenue or trial conversion. So kind of proving to everybody that, hey, the more people are activated, the better your ads are going to do, the more revenue you're going to generate, the more renewals will come through. So first is kind of just making sure people understand this kind of relationship and connection. This comes with kind of quantitative analysis, figuring out what your activation moment is. And so once the team understands this is all kind of connected, it becomes a little easier because it's kind of part of how the company operates and thinks about success, right? But even if everyone does understand it, it's tricky to make people accountable just because this is not typically how you're going to be measuring these things. And so I think the best way I know is to kind of have these kind of guardrail metrics. And so typically, like when you're measuring campaign success, it's you kind of measuring ROAS on kind of a cohorted basis where you're looking at new cohorts of users coming in on a weekly basis. Are these users profitable? Are we generating money from these users? Are they hitting kind of our revenue targets? Well, in those same cohort charts, you should also have activation rate, day 7 retention, day 1 retention, trial cancellations. And this lets you kind of see the quality of those cohorts. And so sophisticated teams don't only think about, did these users convert on a start of trial, but what is the quality of this cohort over time? Because we care about LTV, we care about kind of the renewal rates coming in. And so you want to have these, early indicators of success, these leading metrics that allow you to predict basically, is this user going to renew after a year? Or am I going to see a drop? And so all those metrics around, did the user activate? Did they cancel immediately after they converted from the trial? Did they, at what time frame? And then also kind of retention metrics should allow you to have these kind of guardrail quality metrics. And then if you hitting kind of ROAS targets is not enough, you should also be saying, do we have good quality users coming in? And then if you don't, you go, well, what changed? Did our ads change or did our product change? Because it's these tell you that something happened. They don't tell you what happened. And then it's a deeper investigation.
For sure. The moment you have one single target, it's a system that everyone wants to game. And what I'm hearing you say is you want to have guardrails around that. And Mike, what do you see when you talk to a lot of your customers in terms of how they balance measuring for one single target versus actually ensuring holistic growth?
I mean, I think we spoke earlier about like measuring that sort of first renewal or something like a sort of down funnel metric there, which is really important. But actually, I would say one of the sort of simple things that gets missed quite a lot is actually just making sure you're fully tying up your campaign data with your attribution and event data, because it sounds really simple, but actually it does get missed. And if you're not doing that, then you can't hold your UA teams accountable, because they can't see where their campaigns are going and what's resulting in those campaigns. That's why, like Singular, we make such a focus on making sure that is like one whole thing that you can see from the starter campaign, your creatives, etc., all the way through to your down funnel events. So yeah, I would say just make sure the basics are in place and you can actually see those metrics. You can tie them back to your campaigns, and that's the easiest way to start sort of putting more emphasis on optimizing towards events that are happening further than just the subscription or trial starting.
Yeah, so what you're saying is show the metrics, make it easy for everyone to see so that they really understand what's happening. And Elise, if I had to ask for your perspective on how teams can be accountable for down funnel metrics, activation metrics that aren't really top of your dashboard, if you will. What have you seen?
I think, I mean, as Jacob mentioned, having any kind of proxy event or KPIs that can allow us as the UA team to figure out if our campaigns are actually moving the needle or if we are not going after the right users, because then I think when we're looking at campaign setup and creatives, for example, we can tie in the kind of creatives that scale with the quality of the user and then further adjust what kind of creatives we're making and how we're rolling them out. I think when we're looking at metrics reported by the ads manager by Facebook directly, those are directional metrics. They don't really translate into true performance from the measurement side, but it can kind of like help us seeing if we're going in the right direction or not. So I think doing constant health checks of what the ads manager reports on at the creative level, for example, and if it matches the quality of the user getting into the app. You can't really do like one-for-one matching super well, but you can have an idea of the trend and plot over time how things are doing. So this is something I encourage doing at least monthly if you can.
For sure.
To make sure you're going in the right direction, especially if you have a significant creative win or a creative shift. You just want to make sure that you're still going to the right direction of acquiring the right users.
Yeah. And we've seen that too. Sometimes a creator is doing really well based on the cost per trial, but the quality of your audience is terrible. Mm-hmm. The downstream retention is terrible, and that's something you definitely want to watch out for. Excellent, guys. So now, if we have to move to the last leg of our webinar, let's tee us up with a couple of quick fire questions. So, Andrey, paywall or pricing change that you've seen that you would say made a massive win or a difference? What's one example that you can share?
Yeah, if I need to take only one example, I think the most common practice right now that like help app developers boost revenue on web, it's introductory offers, like when you apply discount on the first billing cycle. So like 1 month with discount, another month, and 4 months with the full price. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's the most common practice right now.
Yeah. Jacob, what have you seen?
Yeah, few. I see that multi-page paywalls, kind of breaking down that Blinkist trial approach to kind of simplify information across multiple pages. These can be a big win I've seen. I've seen people, always a big win is, moving from an annual plan and moving kind of monthly or quarterly to a view all plan screen, driving more annuals. And then I've also seen trends around kind of paid trials. So showing annual plan with a 7-day trial or paid trial that's like $4 for 30-day trial or something. Those are a
Right.
few big trends I've seen on the
Yeah,
app,
yeah,
on the
and
in-app
these,
purchase app side.
for sure. And these are variables that you wouldn't have seen tested so much even 2 or 3 years ago, which suggests to me that people are testing and trying a lot more variables lately. It's very interesting to see. And on the acquisition side, what's a recent creative win you have seen that you can share? Patrick, if you want to take that.
Yeah. So it was one ad. So often because we're category leaders, we don't have any like competitors to really copy. But so we look at a lot at what people are doing in completely different sort of industries or verticals. And it was an ad actually inspired by an ad by Liquid Death, who are obviously really good at their marketing, and basically reacting to some users' comments who couldn't understand how to work the app and making fun of them. And that performed really nicely for a few months for us.
Yeah. Elise, any examples of standout ads lately?
Yeah, I can talk about app I was consulting for a few months ago. So on their best performer, they had some kind of like negative comments, calling out the app to be spying, or like the app is just like a spy. It was a AI app. So we took that spy comment and really turned it into a skit. So we asked some creators to dress as spies and just do some like James Bond moves and with like a very simple hooks. And that worked really well because people really saw the humor. We were making fun of our own app. We weren't very serious about, like the messaging of the app. And that was a really good success. We had some really good, I think, cost per trial, but also the, like the organic uplift of how many people shared it and commented it. And this is something I care more and more about. And it's, like the fact of like taking some negative comments and turning them into hooks, doing some social listening, being aware of what people say about your apps and not just launch them in the dark and look at the data, actually interact with the social engagement.
Yeah, also things that are really hard to do with AI.
Yeah.
Also the example that Patrick, you gave, it's not going to be easy to come up with those ideas with AI. And you could execute these ideas with the help of AI, but I think the actual ideation, I think, would be really hard. Yeah. And if we had to go around the room for one piece of advice or suggestion that you would have for a UA team that's scaling, that could be non-conventional or conventional, one piece of advice that you would have, quick, rapid fire. We have 4 minutes to go. So Mike, if you want to get that ball rolling.
Yeah, sure. I think the key thing is make sure you've got everything mapped out in terms of how you're going to track it. Make sure you've got that sort of unified measurement stack sorted and working before you scale. Don't try and scale fast and then try and sort of fix it as you're going and wondering why none of the numbers make sense.
Yeah. Patrick?
I would say scale both the number of ads you're producing and the number of people you have in your creative team. Really inject that creativity into it. Scale their salaries also, and it works nicely.
Yeah. And Jacob, what would you have as advice?
Yeah, focus on monetization. Like, I think people underestimate the power of increasing ARPU. Like a 10% increase in ARPU could be like a 50% increase in your margin for scaling ads. And so if you increase monetization, you should be able to spend more and scale further there as well.
For sure. And the mix between your plans, I've seen increasingly makes such a huge difference. So yes, 100% test more monetization. Sure. Andrey?
Yeah, for teams who scaling the volumes on web, I would suggest to diversify the channels, like ad networks, like Meta, TikTok, Google, also different channels like web to app with like payments on the web funnel, also with the like landing page and in-app funnel as well. So it's all different audience. You need to tap all this audience simultaneously. And for web payments, just like take care of payments at the very beginning, because it's a huge leverage of your growth.
Sure. Elise, what piece of advice would you have?
On web funnels, if your team is interested in making them work and scaling them, you need dedicated ownership that lives inside your UA team. There are some great tools out there to build web funnels. There's some great resources, but you need one person or one team that really owns it and scales it and builds a specific roadmap, or else it's not going to work.
Yep. Excellent, guys. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, sharing your insights. This is a great place for us to wrap up. Yeah, we have just about a minute left. So thank you again for your time, everyone. And yeah, have a great rest of your morning, evening, afternoon, wherever in the world you are.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
very
Shamanth,
much.
for hosting that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Uh,